Good morning, students. Welcome into the new session of BCA Semester 4, that is CS 22, Operating System Concepts with Unix and Linux. So, I am going to deal in your class for this particular subject. As you can see onto the screen, it is a prescribed syllabus of CS 22 Operating System Concepts with Unix and Linux. In short, we'll know this particular subject as OS. Basically, in this particular subject, there is a major part of the theory and minor part of practical. Total, there are 11 units as you can see onto the screen, 11 chapters as you can see onto the screen. The first unit is Introduction, where we have to justify some theoretical portion of the same, like meaning of OS, function of OS, features of OS, types of different types of operating system, and different types of features into the operating system. Actual part starts from chapter number 2, that is process management. Up to this, we are just using an operating system for our routine purpose. For example, right now I'm using Windows 10 operating system. I don't know how it internally works. So the core part of this subject is to get the knowledge about how operating system works internally. So that would be started with process management. Then the third chapter is whenever any process executes, it required a memory for executing their internals. So in chapter number 3, we are going to learn about memory management. Then after, there is an introduction of Unix. In chapter number 4, like we'll discuss about the architecture of Unix, Unix features, types of shell, different types of file, directory, and their permission structure. Then in chapter number 5, we will learn about various types of Unix shell commands. It's very important, and the practical session starts from this particular chapter. As you can see onto the screen, it contains various types of command like who am I, clear, ls, cat, cd, etc. etc. I'm not going to speak every commands over here. It's already there onto the screen. You can pause the video and just have a look for every commands. After the successful completion of unit number 5, which contains the practical session, we'll go for unit number 6. It introduces VI editor into the Unix. What is VI editor? It's a place where we can write a program which is going to be executed onto the Linux. After discussing each and every corner of VI editor, even it contains the practical. That means after the discussion of chapter number 6, we are able to write more than one logical line of code in Unix. After the completion of chapter number 6, in chapter number 7, we'll go for shell programming. That means it contains it contains the topic of the discussion like decision making statement, looping control structure, etc. etc. Even it contains a practical portion. Then there is a chapter number 8. Chapter number 8 is getting started with Linux. In this, there is a detailed discussion about how can we install a Linux, and will introduce the internal concepts about Linux. All previous chapters are related with Unix. Linux starts from chapter number 8. Then in chapter number 9, before introducing chapter number 9, chapter number 8 contains a theoretical discussion about the same. There is no practical, just there is a practical session of one thing is that how can we install Ubuntu as a Linux operating system in our computer. Fine, we'll not discuss more about this right now. In detail, we'll discuss whenever we reach at chapter number 8. Now in chapter number 9, we'll get introduced with the Linux booting sequence. How Linux work whenever you press the power on button of your system, and if the Linux is installed in your system, what internal process will execute, that we are going to learn in Linux booting. That is chapter number 9. Then in chapter number 10, in Linux there is a concept of X Windows. That means some of the features of Windows you can use in this Ubuntu operating system. How it is possible, what are the layered structure, and etc. topics we're going to learn in chapter number 10, that is working with X Windows in Ubuntu. After the successful completion of chapter number 10, we'll start with the final chapter of this entire syllabus, that is chapter number 11, where we'll learn that how to administrate the Linux operating system, that is Linux administration. As I have already told you that as a Linux will install Ubuntu, so how can we administrate the Ubuntu, that we are going to learn in this particular chapter, that is chapter number 11, Linux administration, where we will learn what are the different steps for creating the account, managing the users, assigning the roles, installing the various types of web servers like Samba web server, Apache web server, different types of services like LDAP, FTP, DNS, etc. etc. Even it contains the theoretical session, and then at last our final discussion will be concluded. So this entire syllabus is divided into the total 11 chapters, but in all these 11 chapters we will get three different things. That is, first is we'll get to know that what is actual OS and their functionality. Second, we'll get to know about the word called Unix. Third, we'll get to know about the word called Linux. And then into the concluding part of this entire syllabus, we'll get to know that what is the difference between Unix and Linux. We are using Windows environment starting from the BCA semester number 1. But in market, even there is an option of Windows. So in this syllabus, that option will be introduced in front of all of you, which is more secure, more reliable, more portable than Windows. Even if you remember, then the programming in C were first basically designed to get executed into the Linux operating system. As far as the popularity is concerned, Linux and Unix is not that much popular than the Windows due to the lack of UI, that is called as user interface, and the complexity of using the operating system. That's why Windows is more popular than the Linux Unix. But into the company where the security matters, they will use the Linux and Unix environment instead of going into the Windows environment. That doesn't mean Windows and Windows operating system are less secure, but comparative to the Linux and Unix, the architecture of Windows is little bit easy. Graphical user interface of the Windows is more powerful than the graphical user interface of Linux and using Unix. That's why users choose Windows operating system rather than using Linux and Unix. Now, as I have indicated earlier, in our subject, we have to talk more and we have to do less. That means there is a discussion of theory contains the maximum part of this entire syllabus and minor practical is there. So even if you scroll down your syllabus, then at last you can see that it contains a 50 mark of weightage for CS22 and 15 marks of weightage for CS19, that is C Sharp and Java. Then for this particular subject, there is a very minor practical session will be asked into the examination. Even into the university paper, they will ask more theories and less practicals. So in today's session, just remember the code of this particular subject, that is CS22. The full name of the subject is Operating System Concepts with Unix and Linux, which is in short pronounced as a OS. Obviously, as per the style of my taking the lectures in the class, we will start with unit number 1, that is Introduction. So let's start with the same. I have already created a slideshow for every chapters, so even you will get a brief idea through the PowerPoint presentation also. Even I will share this PowerPoint presentation once the entire syllabus is completed. But this is just to give the brief idea about the particular chapter. This is not the complete theory. So let's start with the same. First, we should have to clear the definition of operating system. That means what is operating system? So as you can see onto the screen, an operating system is a collection of software that manage the computer hardware resources and provide a common service for computer programs. The operating system is a vital component of the system software in computer system. Yes, operating system is the heart of a computer system which we are using. That means, as we have discussed into the BCS semester 1, there is a one classification of the computer. Entire computer is made up of two parts. One is the hardware and another is a software. In hardware, it contains two subsections, that is input devices and output devices. There are various types of input devices are there like keyboard and mouse. Various types of output devices are there like printer, monitor, etc. etc. Right now, we will not focus on the hardware part of the system. That means we will not discuss more about input and output devices. That is already discussed into the computer fundamental in BCS semester number 1. Now let's come into the another part of the computer system, that is the software part. Even software part is classified into the two subsections, that is a system software and an application software. Various types of application softwares you have already learned, like C programming we have learned, Java, C Sharp, PHP, which you have already learned, and some of the you are going to learn in this semester. All these are the application softwares. Like the bundle of MS Office is an application software, and in future you will learn about the various types of another application softwares. That means once the operating system is installed, an external software which you can install above the layer of operating system, all these are called as application softwares. So there is a very clear cut bifurcation of application software. Again I am repeating my words. The initial requirement of using the computer is hardware. You require an input output devices. Once you have it, the second step we have to take is we need to install any operating system into the relevant hardwares. That means into the storage devices we have to use a one operating system. Once the operating system is installed into the above layer of operating system, we can install many application softwares like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that is the bundle of Microsoft Office. Various programming languages like C, PHP, Java, C Sharp, Oracle, SQL Server 2012, etc. etc. All these are called as application softwares. Now, one more thing that I would like to clear with all of you, that in a computer system, as you can see that it contains hardware as well as software. Hardware contains input devices, output devices. Software contains the two part, that is application software and system software. Right now in this subject we are not going to have an idea about, we are not going to discuss more about hardware, but it requires keeping in mind. We'll focus on software side, and especially on software side we'll focus on system softwares only. That means whenever you install any types of OS, that operating system is called as system software. Now there are various types of operating systems are there, like general Windows, Windows 7, Windows 10, and before Windows 7 there is a Windows XP, etc., etc., etc. But this is not a single operating system option available in market. These are the various flavors of Windows. XP is a flavor number one, just like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry ice cream. Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows Server, etc., etc. Same like that, there is an option number two called Unix comparative. Uh, with this, I would like to write Linux. Third is Mac OS. Here I am talking about the operating system for computer system, right? There is, I know there is an option of operating system for the mobile devices like Android and iOS. Right now we are discussing about computer operating system only. So computer operating system have three options like Windows, Linux, Unix, and Mac OS. This particular subject focus on this selected line of the statement, that is called as Linux and Unix. In Linux and Unix, even it contains many types of flavors like Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, Puppy Linux, etc., etc. Many flavors are there. Just like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows Server, it contains the different flavors like Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, Puppy Linux, Kali Linux, one more I just got in my mind, etc., etc. Many more are there. Apart from all these options, we have to go for the use of Ubuntu operating system for the practicals. So we will focus on this particular part. Even there is one more option called Mac OS. So this particular subject is irrelevant for discussing about Mac OS and Windows OS. So one thing is clear, in Unix and Linux, from the list of different flavors, we will use about Ubuntu. And operating system is called as various types of system software into the computer system. Now, if we bifurcates, then hardware is the body while software is a soul. And it jointly works together for an electromechanical device called computer. If you have only body, it is useless. If you have only soul, that is software, even it is useless. Both of the works together for the computer system. Now, This is a very basic discussion of operating system. So before concluding my today's lecture, I would like to repeat the first paragraph which introduces the definition of operating system, that operating system is a collection of software that manage the computer hardware resources and provide the common services for computer programs. The operating system is a vital component of system software in computer system. Thank you very much students for listening me, and we will go ahead very fastly in our next lecture. Thank you for listening me and have a nice day.